Hello friends, welcome back to the shop. Today is Saturday, April 22nd, and it is finally beginning to warm up a bit here. I'll say no more. I'm just happy that it's not snowing. So I hope you've all had a great couple of weeks since last time we met. I've had some interesting times, but all good, and I'm happy to be back here in the shop talking to you guys. I'm smoking today this Hercules, which is a Savinelli second, and I am smoking some Peter Stokkebye Luxury Bullseye Flake from 2015. I'm going to talk more about this later in the video. So, as I mentioned in my last video, I spent last weekend, well, it was a long weekend, in Pittsburgh. Went to visit my in-laws for a few days, and they're doing great. My father-in-law's been having some medical issues, difficulty getting around. His legs are not what they used to be, and that's been sort of up and down, but he seems to be on the rebound now and doing much better. So it's good to see them. Had a good time catching up, and while we were there, I did something that you probably would find atypical. I attended a They Might Be Giants concert. Now, They Might Be Giants has been a sort of guilty pleasure of mine. I don't know if you can see that, and I don't like wearing hats indoors, so there's been a sort of guilty pleasure of mine since the mid-'80s. I really like the band, and I've been following them since their first album came out. And I've seen them a couple of times. This is the first time I saw them with my wife, so that was kind of a neat experience. She doesn't know much about them. No one knows much about them. If you haven't heard of them, look them up. They're an interesting band. And of course the dog is going to be chiming in now. It's later in the day than I normally make these videos, and I'll explain why. So anyway, the They Might Be Giants concert was fantastic. It was a small venue, and I'll put a picture in here at some point just to give you an idea. It was general admission, standing only. There were no seats. And so we got there about maybe a half an hour early just to make sure we weren't stuck way in the back. And we got a pretty good spot. And yeah, it was really a good time. Now, there was one kind of unfortunate thing that happened, but I found humor in it in the end. As I was standing there, you know, you get into these things and you wind up trying to keep a personal space around you, a respectable distance. So there's people right in front of me, but I can position myself between their heads so I can see, and there's enough space that I could reach out and touch their shoulder, but I'm not pushing up against them. And the hall's starting to fill in, so we're standing there waiting. And all of a sudden, this two guys come up, both fairly tall kids. I say kids because my wife and I were not the oldest people there, but we were certainly in the top 10% in terms of age. There's a lot of younger people, and then this band is attracting a younger following, which is great. So these guys were probably in their early 20s maybe, and they're quite tall, compared to me. And the one guy stood next to me. The other guy just pushed past me and stood right in front of me. So he squeezed into this tiny little space between me and the person in front of me, and it was incredibly uncomfortable. And what I think he expected was that because of my discomfort, I was going to step back and let him have a prime viewing spot. But I didn't do that. I got a little angry, and so what I did was I kind of crossed my arms and I inched forward a bit, like just about 2 inches maybe, but it was just enough that my elbow was poking him in the back, and I stayed there. And he gave me a sort of quick angry look over the shoulder, but then didn't want to draw attention to the fact that he knew he was doing something that he shouldn't be doing. And then I started breathing out my nose quite heavily down his neck. And it wasn't like really obvious, but I just made sure that when I breathed out, it went straight onto his neck, because if he was going to be that close to me, that's what he was going to have to put up with. About 30 seconds later, he moved behind me. So it was fun. It all resolved quite well, and I was kind of pleased with my passive-aggressive approach to to making this guy move because, you know, obviously I didn't want to do anything overly confrontational. But everything worked out fine, and I'm sure that he had a perfectly good view from behind me because he was so much taller than me. Whereas when he was in front of me, he was basically blocking completely my ability to see and filling up all the space that I had. So anyway, I think everything worked out fine in the end. But it was a great time. That was Sunday evening. I came back on Monday, got the dogs out of the kennel. My wife came back later on Monday. She had gone earlier in the week, so we took separate cars. And unfortunately, over the course of the weekend, I started to develop a bit of a toothache, and it turned out that I needed to have a root canal root canaled. Now, if you've ever had a root canal, they're not the best thing that you can do in your spare time. You know, they're uncomfortable at best. But I've had 3 or 4, and you know they're okay. It's not the end of the world. It hurts a little bit for a day or two, but I can generally get by with you know, some Tylenol or Advil or something like that. And yeah, it hasn't really been a problem. Now, what happened is that one of the teeth that had been root canaled a long time ago, 25 years ago, an abscess was forming that I didn't know I had because there's no root. And then it started to get to the point where it was inflaming enough tissue that I could feel that something was wrong. And so they had to go in and actually open up a channel to this abscess, and yeah, it's a mess. Boy, did this hurt. I don't know why. I guess because they had to actually go in and make an even bigger hole in my tooth. But I gotta tell you, for most of this past week, I've just been unbelievably uncomfortable. And you know, they don't want to give you opiates, which is fine. I understand why, and I don't think I necessarily needed them. But you know, very high dose of ibuprofen, and that just took the edge off of it and made it possible for me to get through the day. Not fun. I hope I never have to get a root canal done. I don't mind the initial root canals; they really aren't bad. But this was like being hit in the head with a hammer. It was really quite painful. So, I want to talk a bit about the tobacco that I'm smoking today. This is Peter Stokkebye's Luxury Bullseye Flake. I know I've smoked this in the past, and I've talked about it a few times, but I don't think I've ever given you like my full impressions of it. And I noted recently how much this tobacco changes after just a few years, and really after just a few months of being jarred up. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So this is roughly 3 years old. This is from May of 2015 that it went into the jar. So it's not quite, but almost 3 years old. And it's a wonderful smoke. So for those of you that don't know, the Luxury Bullseye Flake is a Virginia Perique blend, and it's a rope tobacco that's cut into slices. And the way the rope is formed is it's wrapped around a core of Black Cavendish. And I'll show you a couple of these slices. So there's a pretty good example. So you can see that's really beautiful. You get those nice bright Virginias in there, some real dark blacks, and then that center is black. That center is Black Cavendish, and that's really how the tobacco comes. It's these nice rolls, and they come apart as individual coins, and then you can just rub those out and stuff them in the pipe and go. Now, it's not an everyday smoke for me, but it's something that I really do enjoy, especially in the springtime. I smoke a fair amount of this, and I have a lot of it cellared. And when I open a jar like this guy, I order more so that I can jar it up and keep that rotation going. And when the new stuff came in, I thought, well, let me just try a bowl of it fresh. And it was not as good. It was good, but it was a lot sharper, a lot harsher. And it occurred to me that the even just a little bit of time in a jar does something special to this tobacco. And there's other tobaccos like that as well. Old Joe Krantz is an example. I can't smoke Old Joe Krantz when it first arrives, right out of the bag. And I'm talking about all these are bulk tobaccos that I'm talking about. If you buy Old Joe Krantz in a tin, it might be very different. So it occurred to me that there's something that goes on, some melding process that goes on, and with Luxury Bullseye Flake, it's really an important part of the overall experience, I think. So it's a Virginia Perique blend. It's very well balanced, so the Virginia is very prominent. You certainly can taste it. You certainly get a lot of sweetness from the Virginia. And the Perique is there adding like a sour, figgy note. It's not really spicy, it's just sour, but good, very good. And that balance of sweet and sour is really nice. And the Black Cavendish does what Black Cavendish does. It adds a little bit of sweetness, and it just binds everything together and sort of smooths the transition between those two flavors. And again, right out of the bag when you first get it, it's just not as good as what it is after even just a couple of months in a jar. But if you can get some and jar it up for a couple of years, it's really nice. And don't get me wrong, I've smoked it fresh out of the bag for a long time. It's not that I'm discouraging people from buying it if they don't want to put it up for a while, but do put some away, because it's very nice. It ages very well, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I was thinking about this. I got so interested in this whole process that I decided to put together a blog post on tobacco aging and melding of flavors. Not exactly a scholarly work, because there's not a lot of scholarly work that's been done on tobacco aging. But I do, I'll post it tomorrow with some trepidation, because I kick a few sacred cows, if you will, and I'm not so sure that everybody's going to agree with what I have to say, but hey, it's my opinion. So if you get a chance to check that out, please do. One other thing I wanted to mention is, if you haven't seen it, our friend Daniel Schur has had some pretty significant medical issues recently. Had to get some surgery. He put up a video with the help of his niece describing what happened. I'll link below to that. I hope he's doing well. I haven't heard from him, but certainly hope that he's doing well. If any of you have heard, please let us know, because he's got a lot of friends here in the community, and I'm sure he would appreciate us dropping him a note or a card or something like that, just to let him know that we're thinking of him. So, Danny, if you're watching this, I really hope you're on the mend and feeling much, much better. And I'm looking forward to seeing you back in a video sometime soon. So we'll keep Danny in our prayers. And with that, I think I'm going to pretty much draw this video to a close. So I hope you're all doing well, and you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and you have a great week ahead. And until the next time we talk, I will look forward to speaking to all of you again very soon. Goodbye now.